What is that one education myth related to inclusivity?
Children with disabilities can't learn.
Journey from empathy to basically taking action to compassion could be bridged.
If you give simple solutions like this to the teacher, which are just around in the environment, a teacher will find it very easy to implement. Whether the child has a disability or not, or without a disability, is enrolled in school. That every child has a right to be a part of the mainstream.
And it is often said that inclusivity is not the problem of child's disability; it is the systems level problem. Uh, Greetings, Sonali ma'am. Sonali ma'am is the founder and executive director of Souls Arc, a non-profit organization, and she brings with her experience of around 25 years. And she has been working in the area of inclusive education for persons with disabilities across India. And her suggestions, her work has actually worked, affected the policy at policy level, and brought impact at the school level also. So today we have Sonali ma'am, and we'll be discussing a lot of things with her which would benefit us as teachers, and also give us ideas as how to take the policy to the implementation into the classroom. Over to you, Sonali ma'am. We would just like to hear a small introduction of yourself from you.
Thank you, Neerupama, and thank you, Sterlite, for India for having me on this podcast. You have been doing wonderful work, especially in the space of teacher education, e-service, which is so important. I think inclusion can only be successful if a teacher comes with basic knowledge, awareness, as well as I would say attitude towards inclusion. So glad you all are doing this podcast, and I do hope some teachers somewhere get listen to the podcast and shift their views around inclusion. That's really the aim today. I'm Sonali Saini. I'm the founder of an organization called Solzar. We've been in this space since the last 22 years, and we've been working in the space of inclusive education as well as livelihoods for people with disabilities. Our school education program is not just about working directly in schools, but also at system level. So we work with different state governments, which Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu. These are some of the states we work in. Daman and Diu is another UT that we work with. And our focus is not just to shift classroom perceptions, making classrooms inclusive, but also at a systemic level, how these changes can be sustained even when we are not there. We started with in 2020 on the systems change model, and are now in 3 states and 1 union territory, and hopefully more of this can enable inclusion in India.
Thank you, Sonali. Thank you so much. So, you have been working for almost 2 decades. What is that important change which you would say has come in inclusive practices in last 25 years in the space of education?
So India has always had very progressive laws when it comes to inclusive education. RTE, it started off with also RTE ensuring that every child, whether the child has a disability or not, or without a disability, is enrolled in school. That every child has a right to be a part of the mainstream. Before the RTE and before the RPWD Act, which is Rights of Persons with Disability Act, a lot of special children were going to special schools. A lot of children with disabilities were getting admitted to special schools. Many of the mainstream schools were very low for admission. And perception was that these children would require segregated systems and not integrated or inclusive systems. What has changed over a period of time is one, enrollment, that most schools can now deny admission as far as the RTE is concerned. The new education policy also lays a lot of ensuring that classrooms specific chapters and mentions of the new education policy clearly says that children with disabilities should be a part of it. shift from segregated approaches to inclusive, lots changed over the last 25 years. But sadly, I must say that while a lot of focus on enrollment has happened, the quality and what we are actually able to implement is very far away from what vision is under the new situation.
True. Yeah, so in the beginning, ma'am, you said that you work at the systems level and also at the classroom level, but it is the systems that you're trying to, bring the change in. So, what do you think is the greatest challenge at the systems level? And it is often said that, inclusivity is not the problem of child's disability, it is the systems level problem. Could you, lay a little more light on this particular statement?
The rights for persons with disability came in India in 2016, and however the implementation of that is very weak. And what that means is that the right to education talks about not only admissions to school, but also talks about ensuring that the infrastructure, school infrastructure, is appropriate, that the teachers are trained, that the children get screened early, that they receive the appropriate learning, adaptations, materials, assessments that are required. That is the big missing piece for us. Some of the states, there is some level of infrastructure that has been solved for. So there are schools which have ramps, but only 50% of them have ramps. Less than that is accessible toilets. Right? So even at an infrastructure level, we haven't really achieved what we have set out to be. So the act remains and the policy remains, but the implementation is lacking. So I think from a classroom perspective, the attitudes is also another thing that has not shifted much. A lot of times teachers or the headmasters feel that, oh, having a child with special needs or a child with disability in my classroom would slow down the pace. That this is not my responsibility, this is the special educator's responsibility. And therefore the attitudes also have not really shifted in the right direction. I always say that more than the skills or expertise of a teacher, it is the attitude that matters. If the teacher feels that every child in that classroom should be included, and that anywhere the child feels excluded or requires support, the teachers are open to giving that support, the inclusion would not be a separate topic.
True. So true, ma'am. So while we talk about inclusive practices, there's a lot of talk at the policy level. Also, there's so much happening on the level of teacher training also. But when we work very closely with diets and we interact very closely with the teachers also. So it is seen, as you said, that inclusivity is seen as a responsibility of special educator rather than the teacher herself. So what is that thin line, or what is that process where a teacher can decide, okay, this is what I can do with a child with certain disabilities, or this is basically the work of special educator only? So like, what is it that can define clear cut areas for both?
No, unfortunately, or for that matter, fortunately, there are no clear defined areas.
Great.
The child in your classroom is a child in your classroom,
Yeah,
right?
true.
So you can't say that for a child with disability, I will limit myself to this much, and for other children, I will go beyond that. So I think what is important is for teachers to realize that it is looking at the needs of the child. Even if you know what the disability is, a child with, let's say, a physical disability or a wheelchair to a child with physical disabilities with just a hand functioning challenge, the range is very, very different, and the needs of the children are very, very different. So therefore, ensuring that one is understanding the needs.
Yeah.
The special educator is there to support the teachers for providing strategies, for giving expertise around certain specific areas that the teachers may require. However, it is the teacher's responsibility to include the child in the classroom. And by inclusion, we're not talking only of physical inclusion. It's not that I've made the child sit in the classroom and that's my responsibility. Is the child learning equally well? Does the child have friends? Is the child respected? Are you asking the child the questions in the classroom? Is the child participating in the sports in the classroom, in the annual function in the classroom. So it's about inclusion of any and every child that a teacher should be looking at. A special educator is only there to support. Special educator cannot solve a classroom transaction or cannot do a classroom transaction, can demonstrate and definitely show that this is how you communicate with the child, or provide certain additional expertise, certain suggestions that the teachers can do, work together with the child, with the teacher, to solve any challenge that the teacher may be facing. However, the responsibility towards inclusion always lies with the teacher.
Great. I'm so proud to hear that answer, that there is no demarcated area where the teacher can say that ye line hai, iske beyond I cannot work. So this is what we usually hear when we interact with teachers, that I don't have the capacity to do further. So I think what your answer says or leaves the message with me is that there is no understanding of it. It is just empathizing with the situation of the child and having a know-how of how to basically include him into the classroom. So there are a lot of trainings, there are a lot of inclusive practices, there's a lot of material if a teacher who wishes to know can find out and learn about herself by herself. So what is it that prevents the teacher to be able to implement those practices in the classroom? Because we can see that when I interact with the teachers at diet levels or school levels, they want to do right. So it's a happy or a kind of welcome situation that they actually want to help, but they do not know how to do it, though they have attended training, they have certificates of trainings of understanding of disabilities. What is it that is the gap?
I think one of the biggest gap, especially since you all work in the pre-service area,
Yeah.
that inclusion is a separate subject or a separate topic. Inclusion has to be, so for example, if you're teaching pedagogy in the B.Ed, it has to be, the pedagogy itself has to include. So let's say, for example, you're teaching how to teach a child to read. In the same paragraph, there has to be an inclusion of how do you teach a child who is visually impaired how to read? How do you teach a child who has hearing impairment how to read? So the differentiation of inclusion as a separate area and a separate topic is where the disconnect happens, because the teachers are never taught practical ways to include the children. It's very theoretical. It talks about different theories. It talks about how it has moved to a social model now, from a medical model to a social. So a lot of information which doesn't necessarily translate to classroom practices.
True.
So what is essential is that the teacher education and the B.Ed, the pre-service that, whether it's certification or it's B.Ed, what is critical is that in every element inclusion is spoken about. And the people who are teaching about this also are aware, because most of the time the professors or the teachers who are teaching may not even be aware of inclusion, and it's only theoretically taught. So how inclusion is taught also depends on what your own attitude is towards inclusion. If a teacher who's teaching about as a pre-service teacher doesn't believe or has never seen inclusion in their classrooms, it becomes difficult for them to explain, give right examples, and also help teachers to understand how it can really happen.
Yeah. So I think you have answered my question. And it's such a valuable insight that, okay, the pre-service curriculum, because we also went through the curriculums and we try to intervene with the teachers over there. We try to give them workshops and, learning circles around that. But the point that, in the curriculum, it has to be embedded in the curriculum with every topics. Yeah. So with pedagogical approaches, with types of assessment. So it should not be a separate unit, right? Where you talk about UDL, you talk about RPWD. So then it becomes like something separate, where the teacher might feel that, this is one unit amongst the 7 unit or 8 units that I have. So inclusion has to be taught as a part of each unit. That's such a valid point and such a great insight. Thank you so much. So now that NCRT has come up with Prashast, and this is one tool which we practiced with the teachers to be able to do the first level of screening of the children. And to my delight and of course to yours also, while using that tool, the teachers felt very, strengthened and enabled that, okay, with the help of this tool, the first screening, I can support the special educator, and then he takes it forward or he advises me to do what next. So,
Yes.
how do you think, or how far do you think this pressures would help the teachers understand or screen the disabilities? Because here I'm talking about a group of, odd 40 teachers. But to be able to scale up, do you think such tools will help the teachers? Do you think something else has to be done? Like, how do you go about it?
I think screen is definitely the first step. Like you said, it's not just about screening or identifying
Yeah,
what the challenges, it's also teachers being aware of these signs in the classroom. Right? So
yeah,
the moment you've gone through the screening tool, you have observed the child in certain ways, right? Which you may not be observing in other
yes,
circumstances. So it teaches the teacher how to observe children, what is it that you should be aware of, what are the different risks that children face. And so definitely tools like Prashast, which are which are app based, easy to implement, can
yeah,
improve screening. But it also depends on how well the teacher is doing the screening. If they're just doing it just for the heck of finishing, which we often see that, oh, let me just finish this, and give it, then you're not really paying attention, right? It's
yeah,
important that you think about the child, observe the child very carefully, understand the question properly, because you're screening across 21 disabilities. So there,
yeah,
right from your motor functioning to your vision to your hearing, you're actually assessing everything that the child is, what you're supposed to observe to find if there is anything at risk for the children. So I think that is important, that these kind of tools are extremely important with technology coming in, that you no more have to wait for a special educator to come
true,
in the classroom for screening of children. Because even if a special educator comes, there is no the special educator doesn't have the bandwidth and will not know, especially in case of hidden disabilities like learning disability, or if there is low vision, or if there is mild hearing loss, they will not be able to know that there is an issue till the teacher doesn't flag it.
true,
Therefore,
true.
that first level screening is very important. Of course, later on, the diagnosis is always done by a professional, and therefore cannot be something that a teacher labels. So that's also something that
Yes.
teachers have to be careful with. That just because there is a screening that has come doesn't mean that the labeling should happen.
Yeah,
It shows that there is a risk. Right?
yes,
For example, if it shows that the child has risk for vision challenges, right, or for blindness, or for, it also may be possible that the child needs spectacles, right?
mm-hmm.
It may
Yeah,
be possible, for example, if the child is showing challenges in hearing, it may be sometimes because the child is not paying attention, or maybe there is some wax in the ear because of which the child is
true,
not able to hear. So it's very important not to label, but to be aware of these signs. The teacher is actually the first point of contact who can really make a difference through early screening. Many times parents are not as educated, are not as aware, and therefore it gets slipped. When the children go to doctors, they may not necessarily display all the signs, or the parent may not be able to describe certain things. But because the teacher is seeing the child every single day, these observations become very critical to measure over a period of time and say that, okay, there is definitely something that we need to check or test for. Yeah, and this has to be, of course, looked at positively and not just as, oh my God, my child has a disability. I think that is
yeah,
the
true.
challenge.
That
But
message has to go to the parent. Yeah.
yes, that these are things which are developmental, which we are checking to make sure that the child gets the right support at the right time.
So that's really nice to hear, ma'am. And I mean, while practicing these tools of Prashast, taking the teachers to be able to use it, we had this mixed group of special educators and the teachers both. So like both were quite excited about how this tool can actually tell what we had already. So we had moved from an identified case to the tool, just to check if the tool is moving to the same case or not. So the journey was really appreciated by the teachers. But the final take the teachers and the special educators had was that the teacher is responsible for one school, one set of children, while the special educators are basically responsible for a particular cluster which can have 10 to 20 schools. Yeah, and the special educator also specializes in one or two, to be able to attend one or two disabilities.
Yeah.
So hence this task of helping or supporting the children and the teacher also was still overwhelming for them. So to be very honest, what I saw in these trainings when I interacted with them, I could see a lot of pain and empathy in the special educators and the teachers, but a little helplessness,
Yeah.
right? So what would be your advice over there? I mean, maybe like we cannot do anything at policy level and we cannot actually help them sort this problem of the numbers.
Yeah.
But what is it that we can suggest them during such interactions as to what path they can take to make their work easier and effective also?
So one of the things that I completely relate to what you said, that many times special educators do not have the knowledge across disabilities.
True.
They also may not understand a specific challenge that a child is facing, because one is, of course, they don't have the time to observe the child sufficiently. So therefore, it is very important that there is this knowledge is freely available, right? So one thing that we have done in our organization is we have a chatbot, which is a WhatsApp-based chatbot. It's called Inclued. I can share the scan later on with you, which you can use as a part of the podcast. It's free of cost for anyone to use. And what it does is actually integrates a lot of knowledge across disabilities, also a lot of knowledge across typical challenges that a teacher faces, whether it's behavior, whether it's learning, whether a child has disability or not. So what this does is essentially acts like a mentor to the teacher or a special educator, where you can ask a question of a certain challenge that you're facing in the classroom. A lot of times we see when there is trainings, it is again very theoretical. It may not, and while it may have examples, it may not be the exact challenge that you're facing in the classroom.
Yeah.
And then who does the teacher go to? Because the special educator, like you said, has to look at a cluster of schools. So maybe they'll just meet this teacher once a month or twice, 2 times in a month. So in that case, the chatbot actually helps them to think of understand simple solutions that can be implemented in the classroom. And a lot of these has come from experts. It's taken us 2 years to build this chatbot.
Okay.
And very simple way to just ask a question and answer. And the answer also comes in a way that it comes through a teacher's experience. It's not like ChatGPT where it is giving you 3 strategies. What it's doing actually is saying that, hey, I understand the classroom situation. I was also a teacher and I also did these things to help me implement this in my classroom. So it's a very teacher language, classroom contextualized solution that actually comes through. And I believe that with growing AI, and I know we'll talk about this a little later, but I think with technology, a lot of this knowledge can be available. I also want to bring out the fact that the reason we did this chatbot beyond disability is because learning challenges and behavior challenges are something that a teacher can face with anyone.
Yeah, true.
So, therefore, it is important for it to equip the teacher to be able to understand the challenge and understand some of the strategies that can be used regardless of whether the child has a disability or not. So which is the reason the bot actually works for anybody, for any child or any challenge that the teacher may be facing in the classroom.
So that's a very important insight that you have given me, the learning challenge versus behavioral challenge, right? So I can see that teachers who are just like 4 to 5 years, in the system, old in the system, do face this challenge. So even little shift from behavior in behavioral terms also is labeled in some of the other disability. And as you said, we have come across, or we have come to a point where yes, teachers are not labeling the children anymore. I remember when I was a teacher 25 years back, so these terms were very new for us, and it was like as if we would like to show off our knowledge by coining those terms. ये हो सकता है and all that. So basically, that's a very important. I think that's a very important development or transformation that has taken into this world, where teachers are actually taking responsibility and respecting the child,
Yes.
rather than So I think the first step towards inclusivity was this, to accept and respect, right? But still, when I interact with the teachers, when I see them in the classroom also, uh, I sometimes feel they do empathize, but to be able to come to an action, or to be able to take a proper action towards what has to be done, that is still lacking.
Yeah.
So they feel their work is done once they have empathized and understood the situation. So how do we convert this empathy into action? What are the things that we could include, or we could cover as as in teacher education sector, that this journey from empathy to basically taking action to compassion could be bridged.
I think when it comes to teacher education, I have not come across any books which actually bring out real classroom challenges.
Yeah.
And this is something which is such a huge gap which exists. And again, what we see is very theoretical. It'll talk about behavior challenges, it'll talk about the ABC model, it'll talk about a lot of things, but the real challenges of a teacher in a classroom, that the child is not sitting properly, the child is running around, or the child is disrupting the classroom because of certain things, or any other challenge that may be come up. There's a child who's very shy, doesn't talk at all. So these are the things where these discussions don't happen in teacher education. It's only about thinking of a very ideal classroom where everybody's sitting very quietly, everybody's functioning at the same level, nobody has any difficulty, and everything's going on very well, which is so far away from the real classrooms. Real classrooms are chaotic, there's so much happening. There are children with diverse levels in your classroom. There are children who have sensory regulation issues, because of which their behaviors may come up as challenging behaviors. So there are many things which need to be discussed. Real life situations, real challenges need to be discussed in the classroom, and real strategies need to be given in a way which are simple and executable. I think one of the big problems that we see in our sector, in the special education sector, and even from a special educator's point of view, I'm a special educator myself, so which is why I can say this, is a lot of use of jargon, right?
Yeah.
There's so much jargon used in the profession that it seems like very daunting. It seems like, oh my God, this looks very complex, and they're talking about, visual perception skills, and they're talking about figure ground, and they're talking about all this vocabulary, which is just beyond me. However, if you make it simple and you demonstrate to a teacher how this can be done, and these things are openly discussed as challenges that any classroom may face, the stigma around it, or the complexity around uses, because oftentimes solutions are very simple. So I'll give you an example of some of the things that kind of solutions that we kind of come up with. So you'll have a lot of times children, who are always dangling their feet, always shaking the table because they're just not able to sit still. So very simple solution to that is putting like a cardboard down, or like a stool down, so that the children have a place to keep their feet. Oftentimes, because their feet are dangling, the proprioception, or the feeling of it not having stability, does this. So that's it. That's all you really had to do in this case. Another example I can give you is, a lot of times we see children having writing challenges. So providing grippers, which are very simple, through a rubber band or a clay, or even real grippers that you get today, holding a box file and inverting it to create a slanting surface, because slants always work better. If you give simple solutions like this to the teacher, which are just around in the environment, a teacher will find it very easy to implement. So what's important is to demystify these strategies that we talk about, stop making it theoretical, make them very real. Talk about, hey, this child was doing this, and then this happened, just this little thing, but it was consistently done, and therefore now the child is sitting better, paying more attention. Important to highlight also the wins. Small strategies create big shifts over a period of time. Highlighting that, listen, when I saw this child the last time I came, let's say a special educator's given a technique to the teacher. Coming and telling the teacher, hey, last time I came and I saw this child was not sitting still at all, or was not able to write, or it was writing all over the page, was slanting everywhere. But now look at the difference it's made. So I think these celebrating these small wins, making conversations around challenges in the classroom very normal, rather than saying it's a problem. I think it can really shift things. It's not as complicated as we think it is.
True. That's so ensuring and enabling, Sonali. So, so looking for possibilities in the problem. So, as you say about this, the problem of having a grip on the pen or the pencil. I remember in school, my teacher had put rubber band around the pencil.
Exactly.
Yeah, so basically, I still have this bulge in my finger because I couldn't hold it properly and it just continued. So, you reminded me of my. So, why I'm giving this example here? So, like my school life was 40 years before, and teachers without a proper course in special education, just because they were committed to teaching and the problem of the child, could find out solutions themselves. And we as teachers, maybe 25 years back, also did the same thing. Like we were I think the first batch or first generation to learn about disabilities in a formal manner, thanks to Tare Zameen Par. So basically we were all trained into it, and then we had special educators in school because everything changed after that. And now it has become like people have started understanding, teachers have started understanding, but has the benefit actually gone to the child or other stakeholders like parents, the peers, and all? Still not sure. There's so much into place, but are they actually getting the benefits? I'm yet to, all of us are yet to, claim that, okay, this has happened. Now, there's a lot of talk about this universal design of learning, right? And n number of trainings, and it has been quoted in the NEP also, NCF also. But are the teachers prepared for it, right? So, especially pre-service teachers, when I see them, they're still struggling with the lesson planning because uska, like the format it has, they get to plan it in a way that one goes into another. There's no rhythm in their plan. Now comes the UDL. So, like, how do we stitch in all these things together? Because ultimately, UDL is the tool through which they can, create a classroom impact. So, how do we stitch these gaps?
So again, the same problem, right? We are looking at UDL separately and we're looking at lesson separately. True. I mean, it has to be a part of how you create your lesson plan. And what UDL says is that you engage the children in different ways, so everything should not just be visual. It has to be visual, it has to be, and we talk about kinesthetic learning, we talk about so many of these things in B.Ed, right? Make that very real, right? Everything that you do can't be visual. It has to have auditory, visual, it has to have kinesthetic. The moment you start following these principles, automatically your classroom becomes a universal design. So one is you engage children in different formats. You also allow them to respond in different formats, right? So your representation to your engagement, everything has to have different formats. So you can allow a child to give an oral answer instead of a written answer. You can allow a project-based system. You can allow the child to draw and explain. So again, UDL is only about allowing, one is presenting the information in a way that has different formats, allowing the child to present the information and the answers in a certain format, right? So that's all UDL is. It's not as complicated as we think it is. It's just basic principles that really we need to follow. And the materials, the TLMs that we use, how accessible are those TLMs? And what we mean by that is every material that let's say, for example, you have flashcards. Right? So flashcards are, imagine there is a child with low vision in your classroom. If the cards are very small fonts, the child is not going to be able to read. So is a child who's sitting in the back row not being able to read. Right? So understanding that my TLM should work. You can also have simple Fevicol and things put over it, or sand or something put over it, so that it becomes textual for a child who is blind, for example, in your classroom. Right? So simple ways of making your TLMs, your teaching learning materials, accessible. When you show videos, you have CC down for children who are not able to hear. they're not hearing the dialogues, they're not hearing what's happening. But if there is a CC down, children are able to read closed captions, the children are then able, it becomes accessible immediately. Right? When you're describing anything in your classroom and there is a map or there is a picture, are you describing the picture of if there is a child with a visual impairment in your classroom? Because they are not able to see the picture. So that means what you need to do is describe the picture to them for them to be able to imagine it. So I think just UDL is, that's it. That's what it's about. It's not rocket science. It's only being ensuring that everything has multiple formats. And if this is taught as a part of the lesson planning, every child is going to benefit from it, because we always talk of type of learners, right? We say visual learners and we say auditory learners, and that's exactly what it's about. Your UDL ensures that every type of learner benefits from the learning, because everyone has different ways in which they learn.
So this brings me to the point where I feel that amongst the, let's say, 20 lesson plans that they have to create, there's a caveat of saying that 5 have to be UDL. So again, as you advise, all these 20 have to have the component of UDL, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
This optional stuff that we do and these additional things that we do, the day we stop doing that, inclusion will not be a topic, it will not be required, because
Yes.
you've already integrated it at the design stage.
Yeah, so I mean, if I were to word it, like we are already training them into something which is different for different. So
Yeah,
basically, now then you talk about inclusion, so then they get confused, right?
correct.
Yeah, so I
But
think
I
pre-service.
created 10 lesson plans like this, and now you're telling me to create 3 like this. So should I follow this or should I follow
Should
this?
I follow that? Yeah. Yes. Great. And the UDL lesson plans have to, I mean, what I've seen is it has to come from the diets. You cannot be creative there,
Yes.
right? So while I did design my other lessons in a creative manner, I can use the backward design model or I can use the 5E model, but UDL will be decided by, the diet. This is how it has to be done.
Yes.
Okay, great, great. So, lovely hearing from you, and you've given me so many ideas to be, to look into intervention with the diets and all. I think what is the role of leadership when it comes to ensuring inclusivity in the classroom, in the school, or any institute for that matter? There have been questions from our diet pre-service students that you talk about inclusion in the classroom in the schools. What about inclusions at diet level? We also have students with various disabilities, or maybe we didn't even opt for an admission because we thought hum teacher nahi ban sakte. What about inclusion at this level? Frankly, I had no answer to that. So I mean, I just had to I didn't even try to answer that because I was not sure. Could you help me with that?
So I think, we always look at, it's like a stool with 3 legs, right? You have the leadership, which is your headmaster, the principal, or let's say a diet principal. You have the special educator and you have a teacher. If you don't have either of them working together, it's going to be wobbly, right? It's not going to have the right balance. It's not going to work. So that's really, and leadership is the first thing. I think what we've seen is in the best of the schools, if the leadership doesn't prioritize inclusion, inclusion does not work. It always becomes secondary and it becomes very dependent on each teacher.
Yeah.
Right? If there is a teacher who's sensitive, they will practice inclusion. But if it is at the leadership level, then every teacher will practice inclusion because it becomes priority. And I'll give you examples of some of the schools that we've seen. There is a school there's a DPS school in Bangalore, North, which is, I think, one of the most inclusive schools I've seen. And what the school has done is that they have messaging of inclusion across the school. Every corner you will see small charts, small sayings, small quotes which talk about inclusion. So what happens because of that is we are constantly prioritizing the fact that inclusion is important. In that school, you will see, children lining up to become writers for others, becoming buddies with each other, and it's only because they value that friendship. It's only because at the leadership level, the message is that as a school, we are responsible for every child in the class, and inclusion is extremely important for every child to feel safe and for every child to grow and flourish. So because of that messaging, um, you can see it trickle down even to the watchman. You can
Yeah.
see it trickle down even to the canteen wala. We've
Mm-hmm.
seen this alive, where I remember this incident which the principal talks about. And she said this watchman came and told her that I also want to learn about inclusion, because when the children come in, children with special needs come inside, I'm the first one to greet them. And if I don't feel them welcome, then they won't like coming to school. So it's that important, right? So I think it's, how does it seep down to every stakeholder in the system? I think that's a huge role the leadership plays. There is nothing that can substitute that role, right? And then comes the teacher and the special educator, who then make sure that that vision is then translated into the classrooms. Vision is then translated everywhere.
Yeah, that is so insightful. I mean, I can imagine what kind of school it would be where, even the guard is taking the accountability and responsibility of attending a child who has inclusive needs.
Yeah.
So, because inclusion or, attending the disabled child is taken as feather in the hat by teachers. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I understand and I'm doing this. I'm like maybe above the rest, right? But this particular example that you have given is something which is showing that they are taking responsibility and accountability. The whole system is taking that. I mean, I think we are far away from that right now. Yeah.
But I
So,
think still there are examples of, like, so what we recently did, and this is what we felt, exactly what we felt, right? That we are far away, and we kept thinking, does that mean none of the schools in India are inclusive? So what we did is we actually did a mapping of few schools that we knew were inclusive, and we found about 13 schools that we went across India and actually captured their best practices. We've actually published these best practices as open public goods for any school to see what, in small micro innovation practice, the MIPs that we talk about. What are these small MIPs that can be implemented in a classroom? Whether it's celebrating Friendship Day with not your best friend, but with somebody you're not friends with and who doesn't have friends. Right? It has such small little practices, how the buddies make a difference in the classroom, how culture of kindness gets institutionalized within the classrooms. And those practices are so real and don't require any resources, don't require any specialization. All it needs is a teacher who is sensitive, who believes that inclusion is important, and is consistent in making sure that these practices are enabled in the school.
yeah, true. So, I mean, how is it that the AI and technology, percolating into the classroom can actually help children with disabilities, considering that our teachers themselves are not digitally strong. Let's not say strong; they're not even aware,
Yeah.
right? Many of them. So how can we make that possible so that it becomes easier for them to follow the inclusive practices?
So I think not just teachers, even special educators are not aware
Yeah.
of a lot of technology which is available for people with disabilities. I think of, the way I'm seeing technology develop. I feel that over a period of the next 10 years, a lot of challenges because of disability will already be addressed. You have smart canes, you have a basic Android phone which can talk back, right? So reading a textbook, reading any material is very simple. You don't have to just do braille. That's of course a way in which children read and write, but simple Android phones can give you a talk back,
Yeah.
and all you do is enable the feature and make and show and look at any text, and it's going to read it back to you. So simple technology which is available today in your own hands. And I mean, mobile is almost in every family. The child may not have it, the
Yeah.
parent definitely has it. And these are all things which are now available also even at government school level. So these are all aids appliances which are provided to children. The challenge is the awareness and the comfort in using the technology. But I do believe that this generation is already born into technology. So therefore, if somebody is able to guide them in the right way, they'll easily adapt, right? For especially for vision impairment, I did not know this. There was an app called Be My Eyes, right? And this is something where it's a free app,
Yeah.
and any person who is blind and let's say stuck somewhere can just click on that, and anybody around the world will become a volunteer for them. They just have to put the camera on and describe what's happening around, give them direction, and that's it. And it's a free app. In 2 seconds you will get a volunteer who will help you with it. So such
So,
small things which are there. uh,
yeah.
yeah,
So while you share this example, I remember like I was talking about this interaction with the diet faculties and the special educators. So the special educators, they had created a list of such apps, and they said ki, please give this to every teacher,
yeah,
so that not only us, every child, parent, everybody should know about them. It is, this information is just with us right now, so you just have to spread this information. Which remind me, they even talked about this talk back and this Be
yeah,
My Eyes, and they said this app, ma'am, if any child uses it, he can actually take you along anywhere in the world with this particular app. Yeah.
yes.
So wonderful. So now, talking about your journey, and talking about your mission, where you say every child learns and every adult earns, right? So, like this journey from inclusive schooling to meaningful employment, right? Right? Why I say meaningful employment? Because the condition of disabled children, like, and they're given any kind of work. So from inclusivity to a meaningful employment, would like to hear a little about that.
You realize how disconnected schooling is with employment, even more with young adults with disabilities.
Yes.
You realize what a huge disconnect it is and how education is not preparing you for the real world outside.
Yeah.
Jobs, I think the knowledge that you're gaining in schools today is not relevant for the jobs which are available outside, especially now with technology coming in, with the different kinds of professions which are changing, different kinds of landscape which is happening, challenges with unemployment that our country faces. So I think it's extremely important to bridge that gap, right? And a lot of that bridging happens, unfortunately, for us at a very later stage. My hope is that with the new education policy now starting vocational education early, hopefully that bridging will start happening. At grade 6, we are talking about introducing children to different vocations. I just hope that the vocations which are introduced are relevant,
Yeah.
and not just there for the sake of being there. I think we run a program for employment of young adults with autism and intellectual disability, something that's hardest to do in our country, not just in our country, but around the world,
Yeah.
because the needs are very specific. There are certain kinds of jobs, but we've been able to do that. We have partners like Amazon, we have partners like Marriott Hotels, Taj Hotels, who are able to employ our young adults and are extremely happy and see the shift in culture even within their own companies. So I
Yeah.
think bridging the gap, ensuring that education becomes relevant to livelihoods at early stages. I think we're a long way to go yet. We still don't have clarity on how this is going to be integrated within the school system, but very important move. And I'm so happy that the new education policy has taken that as a mandate.
Yeah. So when you speak about vocational education, again, I think the same fundamental that you mentioned earlier, it has to be part of everything. Like, okay, we are
Yeah.
talking about these work forms, work with life forms, work with human resources. How is it inclusion can be ensured in these three, work forms? Great, great, lovely to hear from you. Now this is like a kind of closing of this session, and I would just like to hear from you one word for certain phrases that I'm going to ask you for. So let's see. So what is that one education myth related to inclusivity?
That children with disabilities can't learn, should be in school.
Okay, one policy change that could transform inclusivity overnight.
We have everything. We have all the policies. All we need is implementation. We have every single policy in place.
Yeah. What inspires you?
I think small stories of hope, small
Mhm.
actions that when you see a teacher really attempting to make a difference to a child's life is sensitive enough. And when we see that shift, when we see our children transitioning, moving to next grades, coming back, staying in schools, getting admitted in schools, I think these small joys are something that keeps us going. But it's also hard because we are a long way away from solving a lot of issues. So I think we just look at small actions of or small shifts that we see in our environment.
Great. What is that one book or maybe a movie that you would suggest that all teachers should read or watch to develop sensitivity?
I think Tare Zami Pe is something that you said. That's also so Tare Zami Pe, which has now come out.
Yeah,
Um, from I think from a book point of view, I would always say that the knowledge is now at the tip of your fingers.
good.
So rather than suggesting one book, I would just say that if you're curious about something and if you face a challenge, just ask. Just ask. We have chatbots and we have Chat GPT and we have everything around. I think just ask, be curious, and be a problem solver.
Great. What is that one skill that the future teacher should possess? Of course, related to inclusivity.
Empathy. I think
Empathy.
just all of us as human beings need more empathy, especially in today's times.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your insights. Um, just tell me one thing. What inspired you to begin this journey?
Yeah. So
What
my
really
background is
happened?
actually in special education. I've done my master's in special
Yeah,
education.
yeah. That.
And yeah, I think that was the beginning of my journey. But even before that, when I was doing my graduation, I was volunteering at a special school and wondering what to do. But I think that experience was extremely something that really I feel is something that I want to do. It's hard, but I want to do this. I want to make a difference here. That's how the journey started. And then, of course, we moved from working as a center model directly with children to then working with government, mainstream NGOs, to now working in livelihoods. So I think the journey just grows. So do the challenges every day. But it's hopeful that we are at least talking about it. There are forums whether it's previous service teachers, whether it's organizations like yours who see how important inclusion is. I think that's the ray of hope for all of us.
One last, because I'm getting a little greedy now. One last advice for us who are contributing to pre service teacher education and, of course, teacher education also.
I think just build inclusion in everything that you teach. Well, I think that's something I've been talking about right from the beginning of our podcast, where integrating inclusion and inclusivity in whether you're teaching lesson plans, whether you're teaching pedagogy, or whether you're teaching anything, I think that should be an absolute no-brainer when it comes to ensuring that inclusion or pre-service teacher can actually become inclusive. I think if you do that, you'll solve a huge problems which are today.
Thank you so much, Sonali, for your insights. And more than insights, I think there are a lot of action points that I have got through your interaction, and I've learned so much. And I'm sure the audience who would be listening to this podcast would carry a strong message, strong message of how to take action points and how to actually implement whatever you have, suggested here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Neerupama. It was a pleasure speaking to you. Your experience of working with teachers and in classroom just comes out so beautifully.
Thank
Thank
you so much.
you.